Anyone like to ask any of our, or make comments, ask any of our presenters any questions or make any comments? If you will raise your hand, that would be helpful. Then I can see who to give the floor to. Rama, please,
Yeah,
go
hi,
ahead.
hi, Diana. Hi, Diana. Uh, I'm coming in from India, Bangalore. And what draw me to this place was because I did my own master's thesis in using systems thinking in education space, where I had this whole concept is very new in India by itself, and I really didn't find any literature which connected uh, how systems thinking could be useful for educators, especially pre-service teachers. So that brought me here. I'm quite, I liked it that I saw a lot of causal loops being drawn over here, closed loops over here, and that gives me more ideas about how I can take to my educators. I have used the iceberg model in my own practice for explaining how they can probably look at problems or issues as we call them, and bring a more holistic approach to how we understand problems. That was my master's thesis, understanding problem solving approaches for pre-service teachers, whether it's in classroom. There were some administrators also who attended this, and that approach was very useful, and that was their first ever initiation into what is called systems thinking. So I really find this useful, that maybe going forward I can use some of these closed loop models as well. And thank you for the resources. I just wanted to say thanks. That's all.
Thank you very much. I think what's important is that we develop a network of community to answer questions that each other might have if we're starting. I think there are so many places that are just starting. I think Turkey is ahead of the game as a collective group of people. I think they've influenced more different levels of education with the work that they're doing there. And we have some people also in other countries who have done the beginnings of this work. So I think it's important to share with each other our experiences. Anyone else like to make a comment or ask any of our presenters a question? Ed?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I have a couple of comments. One of them, this might seem rather off topic, but I'm looking at Meltem's background, and I didn't quite realize what that was. I first thought it was a peacock opening up. And then I looked more closely, and that is a that is a perfect background for this entire topic. Um, I've found myself lying on the ground a couple of times looking up at trees like that, and it's relaxing, uh, but it fits the whole concept here. I mean, just beautifully. So I need to make a picture like that myself. The other comment is it Gaia? Am I pronouncing your name right? Okay.
Yes.
Um, this might this is kind of a little bit a brief comment in passing, but you had put up one slide that was um, I think comments from students, or maybe it was your observation that had they found it easier to apply systems thinking to science concepts and more difficult applying it to mathematics. And that's something that I think we really need to pay attention to that, because when you're when if you ask a fish what its environment is like, it's not going to tell you that it's in water. I mean, it doesn't even know that it's in water. It's just that's the environment. It lives in that environment. We are all swimming in an environment of calculus. Basically, we look at our math curriculum from starting with algebra, then we go to geometry, then we go to trigonometry, pre-calculus, calculus. For all of our college-bound students or graduate-bound students, have to follow that pathway. And that leaves out huge areas of mathematics, number theory, I mean, all kinds of things, topology, cryptography, lots of areas that just don't even, not only do they not get discussed in detail, people aren't even aware that those topics exist because the total focus is on getting through all this calculus. And I found 2 calculus books online so I was able to go through the table of contents and look at what in that curriculum, what is relevant, what we need to know to do system dynamics. And there was a chapter on natural logs, logarithms in general, natural logs, exponential growth, and exponential decay. Other than that, you don't need anything else out of those 2 calculus, a year of calculus. That's pretty much it. The concepts that we're talking about here don't require calculus. They require algebra and an awareness of stock and flow interactions and behavior over time graphs. So I think we're making a mistake because we're so embedded in this environment that we're trying to use system dynamics to teach mathematics or to enlighten students in mathematics. I think that is totally backwards. We're stuck in that environment, so we have to acknowledge that. But I think what's more important is to realize what we can do without the advanced mathematics and why this is going to be more intuitively acceptable or accessible, I guess, to science students rather than math students, because the science students are trying to solve real world problems. I mean, they're looking at the world and how do we solve them. And then what they're trying to do is use mathematical tools to help solve those problems. And I think it's kind of backwards to emphasize the fact that they need to learn all this calculus to solve these real world problems, when what they really want to do is solve the real world problems. And they can do it much easier with system dynamics than with traditional mathematics. So I just saw this one little tidbit in Gaia's presentation. I mean, this has been a great session, but the one comment that it wasn't so helpful to the math students, or it was more difficult for the math students, just stuck out to me. Now I'll shut up. I'm not okay. One of the presenters here, so I'll shut up here.
Henny, I have to ask you to wait a minute because I feel pretty strongly about this math perspective. I think that there is a lot of calculus concepts, basic concepts that you can bring to students just by looking at stocks and flows and patterns over time. There's huge amounts of mathematics going on. It's just that because we're not looking at equations, we don't think it's the mathematics. And that's a misperception that I would like to at some time talk about, because what we're doing is we're giving more students access to mathematical concepts using stocks and flows and behavior over time graphs that they would not get from just doing equations. But rather, let me let other people speak. But I think that we are doing calculus. We just don't recognize it as the calculus that we used to know. So let me not talk more about that. Henny, would you go ahead and say what you would like to say?
Yeah, I'm going to change the topic to economics. Do you hear me? Yeah, I just was wondering because there were some courses offered to all departments, and I was just kind of stuck to the screen to see whether there were any economics teachers participating, and I didn't see any. So I just was wondering what your experience is with that. Why do they not participate? No, that was my question.
Do any of the speakers want to respond to that? Because I have a response. But does anyone want to, any of the speakers want to respond?
I wanted to respond to Ed's question, actually, or comment, I would say. Can I, or should we move into the other question first?
Can you wait just a
Sure.
minute? I think that what Emre and I have found is there is not much economics taught in K-12, only in the upper high school. And what we're trying to do is figure out ways to use stocks and flows and systems thinking tools to introduce it at younger ages. I think that's probably the main reason that you don't see it, is because nobody's teaching it. And Emre and his economics colleague have come up with a wonderful young game for economics and marketplace, which is coming in the future. We'll have Emre talk about that in the future, but they're doing some really good work. Please, Gaye, go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you, Ed, for your comment. Maybe I wasn't very clear while I was explaining. So the math pre-service teachers didn't find it difficult to learn systems thinking. They just find it more difficult to integrate into their teaching practices in K-12. So they were like equally challenging, finding it challenging and enjoyable and fun, especially actually when they were drawing stock flow diagrams or making calculations. They find it more easy actually, or turning it into behavior over time graphs. So they didn't find it challenging to learn. They just find it challenging to integrate into teaching. And if I have time, I want to share, because there was a comment in the chat about, what was the question? Have you been tracking the influence that teachers you are working? So I actually did a little bit research for the first course. So I did the pre-survey and post-survey, looking at their stock flow thinking, causal loop thinking, and dynamic thinking. And for their stock flow thinking, the dark one shows the pre-survey and the light one shows post-survey. So what we see is most of them was in level 2, which moved into level 3. And there were more students in level 1. And for causal loop thinking levels, there were students, like these were the pre-results, and this was the post-survey. I think it is very promising for the post-survey.
What is the question that they are responding to? How hard was it, or did they find it comfortable? What is the question they are responding to?
Yes, that was important part. Sorry, I forget to mention that. So I gave 3 cases at the beginning of the semester. It was like a case story. It was from the literature, from Dorani et al.'s research. It was like a general case explaining like a city is covered with rats and what's gonna be its impact throughout the time. And the other one was about a person is gonna move into a place, and like it was just a story. And the people who are answering those questions were expected to use their either stock flow thinking or causal loop thinking or dynamic thinking skills. And these cases were giving at the beginning of the semester and at the end of the semester. I can share with you the article that created the case stories as well. So is it clear? Is it more clear now?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you for asking it, because I didn't give that detail. And this was causal loop thinking, and this is the dynamic thinking part. As you can see, like all three of them actually increased, and this is like the general table shows stock flow thinking, and these are the math students and these are the science students, and you can see the pre-post change throughout the time. And what we saw was causal loop thinking was higher at the end, and we saw like increase in dynamic thinking. And interestingly, some decrease in stock flow thinking for some of the students. So yes, to keep it short, I'm trying to track my pre-service teachers, how they are doing throughout the semester. And Burcu and I am offering a course this semester. And at the beginning of the semester, we actually gave a systems thinking assessment survey. And at the end of the semester, we are going to give it again. But I didn't track my students how they are doing in their like once they graduated and if they are implementing it or not. Maybe it's gonna be like a future research for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Gaye. Meltem?
Yes, first I want to thank Ed, and I send the link to you if you want to use for the background. Okay, and for Henny's question that for economics teachers, and what from the last 2 years, this is the second year that we have a course that we opened and get a permission from the Minister of Education as an elective courses in a high school that is combination of economy, management, and entrepreneurship. And we write a curriculum for it, and it's approved by the Minister of Education. And this year we began a small steps with our teacher by the help of Emre, and to implement system thinking. She took already the first online courses, our teacher, and she's economics and management background. And she's trying to adapt it, but it's a new improvements. And I think couple of weeks, Sermon made a webinar in System Dynamic Society, and Erda is one of our association members, and who is the economics as well, and Diane were participated to that webinar. And in the webinar, Sturman explained the game, if I'm not wrong, a Clean Start game, and that is an online game that can be adapted, can be used. And Erda is supposed to use it in his courses in the university for economics economics department. But we try to adapt it now to our high school at the moment. We are trying to adapt it, and that's why the teacher is trying to learn it. That's a new, but you know, there's a little steps also.
Thank you, Meltem. In the chat, there are some very interesting questions going on in the chat. Tracy says, thank you for all your presentations. They've been informative and inspiring. Have you been tracking the influence that teachers you are working with have on teachers in their schools to encourage the growth and interest in systems thinking and system dynamics? Have any of you, now Gaye has already spoken to this as a future concern and perhaps interest. Anyone else has had any opportunity to talk about how some of the teachers that they are training are taking this to their schools and influencing other teachers? Anyone? Meltem? Oh, go ahead. Meltem, did you want to talk to this also?
Yeah, since I work in Darüşşafaka Education Institution, that's a K-12 education we gave in. We have secondary school plus high school in our school. And the last 5 years, we are trying to adapt system thinking to our curriculums in math and science and physics and biology and Turkish classes, as well as Turkish literature classes from different disciplines. And we began with the math and science teacher in middle school first, and we tried to use Stella at the same time. And in each year we have a new teachers, and they always took online courses, and also they have an interaction day that we express our best practices in our school. to the new teachers or who has no experiences with the system thinking in different fields, in different disciplines, and also if you know this is in our school, but they also, when they are making a good lesson plans or the good implementations, they also share in symposium with the other teachers. We have communication with the other teachers as well, and we invite them to the association umbrella also, and not to be member, but to talk and think together. And that's why we, if they want any mentoring system, we always show the website and the online courses. Plus, if they want to contact, we always offer it. And one of the things that when the teachers learn, and when we invite them, when we encourage them, what they've done, they are so open because they are trying to apply for the system dynamics conferences, applications, new approaches, new doors can be open with that. And they, since they're happy and they improved, they would like to also share it. And we have a lot of new teachers in our school that wants to. It's, for example, this and last year, our high school teachers wanted to use it. They always have a mentoring with each other because they invite the teachers, the new teachers, to their lessons to see how it's possible. And they talk together, and that's also good sharing stuff. And they also try to go to the new lessons to help them to make more collaboration. We saw. That's why the association's umbrella is also good because it's also other teachers help, and that's also another opportunity for teachers. I hope I didn't talk so much.
I think what it also speaks to is the incredible infectious power of an administrator who really believes in this and tries to create an environment of sharing. I think there's a very powerful leverage point there, having administrators who are quite supportive. Now, in conversations with Emre and some of those of you whom I meet with every week, the Turkish curriculum is pretty defined at what you are supposed to teach at each grade level in each subject. So if my understanding is if one teacher at a certain grade level in a certain subject is using systems thinking, it is encouraged to try to infect the other teachers of that level and subject to be consistent because they want the grade and subject to be consistent across. And I think that would allow for more sharing. I also wanted to look at another question. Steve Roderick says, have you been keeping track of how many of the teachers that you train are sustaining the systems thinking in their classrooms? And I know that those of you who are doing this pre-service have had your hands full just trying to do systems thinking, develop the classes for pre-training, for pre-service teacher training. But it is important, I think, to at least consider how to track if the teachers are actually sustaining this kind, bringing it into their classroom and sustaining this in their classroom. I think if I'm correct, Steve, I don't know if he's still here. Did I actually?
Yes, you have it. I am still here.
Okay.
And yes,
okay.
That's pretty much the question. Thanks.
Okay. So has anyone done any of that? Maybe you need a grant to actually have the time and funding to support that extended, or maybe one of your graduate students might take that on as a topic to see who is sustaining, who is implementing and sustaining it. I know that is my question, but I wish I would have known this 20 years ago because that's an important question that a lot of people want to know about. Thank you, Steve, for that question. Anyone else? Oh, Henny, please.
Just to react about what you just talked about. To what extent is it actually going to be incorporated in the practice of teachers in their classrooms? And from my perspective, in the Netherlands, where I used to teach, and also where I live now in Belgium, there's a lot of direction of what teachers are supposed to teach. And then, sorry about the dog barking. And then there is then there are publishers who are designing materials that are based on those programs that they have to teach. And if you're able to incorporate some system thinking in those textbooks, then you might actually be much more able to get it into the classroom, because a lot of teachers are teaching in the textbook. Well, that's my 2 cents about it.
Well, I agree, Henny, but I have found textbooks to be behind the curve of learning. They like to create textbooks on safe subjects. They don't tend to like to create textbooks that have too many new ideas. I think for a textbook to be innovative, it almost has to come out of a research project. Something where the research has developed the materials and put them into a textbook that could have the possibility of being used as a textbook in classes. In the United States, in some of our states, they're going backwards in a lot of ways, trying to whitewash our history. Some of the things many of the things the United States has done wrong over history, and they want to take that out and so they're trying to whitewash some of our textbooks so students don't learn about those things. So that's another problem. But innovation, I don't know that textbook people are inclined to include, because it's a risk to include an innovative idea if in fact then the people in charge of choosing textbooks, they're the ones you have to reach because if they say, no, this is too new, we don't know anything about this, we're not going to select this textbook. It can be a problem for textbook companies that they've spent all this money creating a textbook that the decision makers won't choose to allow in the schools. That's kind of a side problem when it comes to textbooks. Better, I think, are things like they've done in Turkey. I'm sorry I keep saying all these great things about Turkey, but I'm impressed with all the stuff that they do all the time anyway. They have created websites and they have a lot of lessons on their website. The problem is it's in Turkish. So what we've got to do is get some of their materials translated to English so that we can have these materials available for a broader audience of people to have access to if they want to get started. Melton, you would like to say something?
Yeah, if I didn't misunderstanding that I think for making this sustainable, preschool, the working with the education faculties is very important. Collaboration
Yes.
with the education faculties, because some of the teachers that we reach, that already they're in the service, but before this, when we give this idea, at least this kind of infection that infected us, as Diana, you said, we would like to infect the others before the systems, real systems, before they became a teacher. At least a mindset change. And when you cross, because when I look my rest of my life, I take some photos from different parts in my life, good parts, and I try to, maybe after 10 years or 15 years or maybe in 5 years, I'll try to copy it. I'll try to develop some good ideas because it's already infected me. And that's why I think working with education faculties is critical, crucial before the teachers go to the systems. But when we are making with the preschool, when we are making with faculties of education, we need to also take some service teacher that use system thinking in their classes, that shows them that's possible. And that's why it's much more to make the student, the teacher's candidate much more stronger that it's possible. And also we know the resources that our website helps us, at least ideas that they can up. I think it helps a little bit more sustain our efforts for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Meltem. Gaye, please.
I agree with Meltem. I think the starting point should be teacher education programs, because then we can have like the whole system changing, because they will become a teacher, they can teach to their students, because trying to train in-service teachers is very difficult and challenging, as we talked at the beginning before recording this. Like teacher professional development, they have a lot to do during their teaching practices. So we need to start doing this before they become a teacher, so that they can learn that way, change their perspective, and change their perspective in teaching as well. And quickly, I want to show something that I learned recently about translation of the websites. Can I share my screen?
Yes.
So this is the web page of the Systems Thinking Association in Turkey. And in the blank part of the screen, if you right click, it says translate to English, and you can do this to any website. I don't know if you know this before, but I just learned it and I find it amazing. So it just translates the whole website into English, and any website. Like you can translate anything here, and the resources are here. Again, in the blank part of the screen, you right click and say translate to English, and it translates to English and everything. And you click any of the resource here, and then you do the same thing. You click and say translate to English, and it translates.
Another thing is Google Translate. If you have like a stock flow diagram that has all Turkish words, if you use the Google Translate vision or something like that, you can take a picture. It will translate the Turkish words to English. Same thing works with menus, which was good. One other thing I would like to add, Gaye, to what you're saying is, and to what Meltem said, and this is all my communication with Emre and why he thought this was such an important leverage point, the pre-college, the pre-service teacher training, and also the university people, to include them in this effort. It's the university people who tend to be on committees to decide curriculum standards. And now Henny, for textbooks, that's one place that textbook publishers look for what should be included in their textbooks. So these people are in prime positions to include more systems thinking concepts in the curriculum standards. And that would then be followed up by textbook companies trying to include some things that would address those standards. So they're critical people. And we have not done much in the United States to include these people in our conversation about infusing systems thinking and system dynamics in K-12. And that's been a problem. I think the other huge thing that is being done in Turkey is the Systems Thinking Association. That's where the community of people are infecting each other and building the skills of the people in the community. And if a teacher leaves a school and they go to another school, that community is already a place where they still have friends and can communicate. If they go to a school where no one is doing systems thinking. So I think that's another thing we have not done well enough or sustained. We had this when the Creative Learning Exchange was doing their I'm sorry, their conferences every other year. We were able to get together more. And if anyone wants to contribute to the Creative Learning Exchange, they would even think about doing that again. But I think they need more funding. So, but you guys do all this stuff for free. It's just amazing. And we are so fortunate that you share this with us. Anyone else want to say something? Anything? There's great stuff in the chat. Please save the chat if you want to look at the resources that people have provided in the chat. Please do that. Thank you to our 4 presenters for taking the time out of their busy schedules to present to us. I know 10 minutes was an impossible task. And so we did keep your presentations within the first hour. So people who could only stay an hour were at least able to hear all of you. And if you're interested in working with the systems, the special interest group, pre-college education of the System Dynamics Society, we welcome you, your participation, and thank you for coming, and thank you to our presenters. This will be the webinar will be on our website, not our website, the System Dynamics Society pre-college webpage, and also the conversation will be there in two different recordings. Thank
Diana,
you. Yes.
Diana, sorry,
What?
can I, when people are leaving, can I ask you something off topic?
Sure. Let me say goodbye to everyone,
yes,
and feel free to leave now because I think our conversation is over. I will stay a few minutes. Bye.
Yes.
And if you want to talk, that's fine. I always like to talk about math and how that really applies in system dynamics. So anyway, we'll do that at another time. Thank you for coming. Thank you all for coming. Okay, Henny, go ahead.
Yeah, when I was following this webinar, this workshop, I had these ideas. Actually, some ideas. One of them is that I recently read about a geography teacher in Belgium who is integrating system thinking in his teachers training program, and I was wondering whether that would be interesting for the SIG, and whether I would it would make sense to contact him and ask him if he would present it to the group.
I think we need to know about more people who are doing this. I didn't know, even in the United States, of teachers who, professors who are bringing systems thinking into their teacher training. I know about Turkey because I interact with them all the time.
Yeah.
But I don't know about others. So yes, I appreciate you having that person connected with us. And it may not be enough for a webinar, but it certainly would be enough for a SIG meeting where we only have 1 or 2 presenters on a topic.
Yes,
and anyway, we would like to connect with that person.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to see if I can connect with him. And
okay.
Then the other thing I was wondering about is that I have developed a sustainability course that is widely aimed at in-service teachers and pre-service teachers, and also teachers at the moment it's in a pilot at the University of Applied Sciences of Amsterdam. And I use some system thinking, I integrate it in that course. And I could share it isn't finished yet. It will finish at the half of April. So then I know about all things I've done and how they are received. But I could share some of those experiences with you.
Okay.
And also the other thing is somebody just shared the regenerative economics part, and I'm currently I'm reviewing materials of the authors who was actually developing that course, and we were just talking about system thinking and how we could integrate that in that course. And that might be, not at the moment because it's a little bit too early, I think, but that might be an idea to share that with the SIG too when we are further in the process.
You know, if you have ideas for things that we should do going forward, I wish you would just send them to us.
Yeah,
I mean,
will.
we would like more input from more people to come up with future things that we do.
Yes.
So please send, you know, write it a paragraph or, you know, whatever, with your name and contact information, and these can be brought up. We have our pre-college SIG leaders meet every week to come up with what we should be doing for future webinars and future SIG meetings and future projects, like our systems thinking assessment questions that we've been working on for years.
Yeah.
So we would like more input from more people.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
That's clear. Thank you. Well, thank you all for the nice presentations tonight, and for me, have a nice evening. But for you, Diana, probably a nice day.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Tesfe,
Daya?
you want to say something? Tesfe?
Yeah. Hello. Yeah. Hello, Diana. Emre.
Hello.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes. We can hear
Okay.
you.
Thank you for us. Okay. I'm Tsvay from Ethiopia. I've been working on system thinking and system dynamics. In my MSc and PhD dissertation, I have employed this technique in my papers, but this approach is new to our universities. Almost none of them are not using this technique all over Ethiopian universities. It's a new approach. So that I want to introduce this technique to different universities in Ethiopia. It's a new technique. They are not aware of what system dynamics is. I have already done my dissertation using this approach, but I have to get some initials from you to just pursue the CEOs or the presidents of different universities and using system thinking or system dynamics in their universities. If there is one is willing to help me, I'm just here to accept your help.
What discipline are you in?
Yeah, I'm just working on railway engineering.
In what?
Railway engineering. Railway.
Engineering?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know that Emery's book is a book for professors who want to start using systems thinking in their courses, and that's free on our webpage on the System Dynamics Society pre-college SIG webpage. So that may be a resource. I don't know how to get presidents interested. I tend to just try to interest people in specific disciplines by trying to find some examples in their discipline of a systems thinking tool that could help them think about a problem in their work. But I really don't know how to convince like presidents. That's kind of like above my pay grade. It's above my experience to be able to do that. I mostly work with teachers, and now with some college professors who are willing to communicate. with me, but because of the Systems Thinking Association, I don't know exactly how to help you with this. I think, how long have you been using systems thinking in your own work?
I've been using this approach for more than 6 years.
So maybe you could try to get an appointment with your president and show him what you've been doing with your students and why you think this is important. I don't really have other suggestions for that.
Unfortunately, I'm not working in universities. I'm just working in private company.
Oh, I see. I don't know how to suggest what
Okay.
you should do. It's not in my experience to know. I'm sorry.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah. Well, folks, you guys did a great job. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for what you've done. I think there was a lot of very positive reaction to what you showed. And so once again, things are good for all the work that you have done. And I am glad to be able to be part of your work. So have a good evening.
Great. Very good.
We'll
Love it.
talk to you later.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Soon, Dr. Meltem.
Yes.
Yeah, bye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're so lovely.
Bye,
So
bye.
lovely. Bye-bye.
Bye.